This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday. Thank you so much. Joined now by the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, and nice little tidbit from Caleb. Thank you very much, Caleb. But congrats to Sean Manaea, the Mets starting pitcher last night. He's from Indiana, went to Indiana State. So, yeah, I think the IU guys are out. Let's see, the Phillies are out. Trying to think. Cleveland's
still alive.
Cleveland's still alive. So, I forget his name, but there's a pitcher for Cleveland that's from IU. But, yeah, that's awesome. Indiana State, nice baseball program over there in Terre Haute. So, congratulations. Yeah, anytime it gets you get an opportunity to bring some notoriety to your school, it's great. Let's see. Russell wants to know, please ask Mike if Notre Dame could ever receive a top 4 seed in the football playoff if they went. Well, of course. If they go undefeated, of course they could, maybe, but
my understanding,
maybe not. Yeah.
My understanding is that is reserved for conference champions. When it was introduced, I believe that's what they said. So I do believe, and I'd have to double check this, but I do believe that the college football playoff top 4 seeds are reserved for conference champions.
So that would make the answer to that question no.
Correct.
But I would be shocked if an undefeated Notre Dame team. I don't trust anything that the higher ups do. Because it's like NASCAR. Well, they'll make rule changes on the fly. It's like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. We're going to let him win this race, but you're not qualified for the playoffs. Whatever. It's just goofiness. But yeah, that's a great question, by the way.
Yeah, I just checked, and the answer to that question is definitely no. They cannot, as an independent, be seeded 1 through 4. It will be the 4 highest ranked conference champions, which obviously will be the champions there's almost no scenario in which this wouldn't be true. They will be the champions of the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, Big 12.
Yeah, I don't think the ACC gets more than one team in this year, and that may or may not be the case. Clemson is going to have something to say about that, yes, along with Miami.
Right.
We'll see how that works out. But then the Big 12, definitely I don't see 2 teams coming from the Big 12, although you've got BYU and Iowa State, who are both playing very, very well. BYU, are they both still undefeated, by the way, as a matter of fact?
I would have to look up.
Yeah, me too. But I think that they are both still undefeated. As I say that, it just jumped into my memory. But those are also, like Indiana, 2 undefeated teams that aren't quite getting their due yet. Matt Rule talked about that yesterday. He said, they're ranked lower than what you would think they are because they didn't start out ranked. So
right.
Don't pay attention to that, and that's true. The only rankings that matter won't come out until I think November 5th. The first college football playoff committee poll. And so that's a ways off, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to that because that's going to be where the eyes start watching and you start counting and the weeks, because after that comes out, there are only 3 games remaining. So that's when things will get tight.
I think we don't know where the season's going to go, but I think that there is still a mentality that there are only there's a certain stratus, there's certain classifications that will be allowed into this playoff. And I don't think that's true. I really don't believe that. I believe that there will be the opportunity for teams to earn their way in. And in this case, the team that is most disruptive, really, to the whole these are the teams that will get in scenario, is Indiana. they're the team that's most disruptive at this point. And now they have to continue to perform on the field, and the challenges are continue to be set up for them so that they can manage them. They can handle what they're being asked to do if they continue to perform at the same level. The schedule becomes more difficult starting Saturday than it has been to date, but it's a home game. And then later on, the next big challenge, Michigan, is a home game. And then, the Ohio State game, but we've always looked at the Ohio State game as if they lose one and it's to Ohio State, they'd still be in great shape. I was on a radio with a friend of mine who was talking about college football playoff possibilities and didn't even consider the Hoosiers as a possibility because it's just the way you've been wired for 50, 100 years, however long you've been alive. You've been wired to believe that you have to have that prestige in order to get your name in front of the committee. But that's not true anymore because of the consolidation of conferences. You're going to play significant opponents. And because of the expansion of the playoff, if you achieve against those opponents, they can't ignore you any longer.
Yeah, and most people do not expect when they see Indiana, Nebraska on the schedule, when they see Indiana, Michigan on the schedule, those are just automatic losses in their minds, like they have been in mine for most of the time. But this year, immediately, I said, that's not the case, man. That is, and so. But when you're not around the program, covering the program, and actually seeing it, I understand they're outside. So there's no reason to expect that until you change that perception. It's like Kurt Cignetti is trying to do, change the culture at Indiana. So if it's not changed completely at Indiana, why would people expect it to be changed outside of Indiana?
But I'll tell you what, we already have the next two IU games are sellouts. That's from what I read online yesterday. Is that's accurate?
Well, I had not heard that about the Washington game yet, but I
read that yesterday online. So I assumed that was correct. I could be wrong about that, but
I'd said a couple of weeks ago that I would be shocked if Indiana does not sell out all 4 of their remaining home games.
Right. And so we see the change in culture really in season from when there was the discussion about people leaving early from one of the early blowouts to now. I don't think anybody's going to be leaving early on Saturday. I think they're going to hang around unless the game goes even better than we expect. I think they're going to hang around. I think this is a big difference in where IU football has been and where college football has been. I could tell you Saturday when I was at that Pitt game, nobody left the stadium until Pitt forced a missed field goal that kept them in the lead. And then at that point, I and a lot of others bolted because it was like there are certain scenarios, Jim, where when you're watching a football game, you say, well, if X is going to happen, I don't want to see it. So beat the traffic instead. And so after Cal missed the field goal, we were out of there. But that was like 90 seconds left in the game. Nobody left before that, even though, like I said, it wasn't a brilliantly played game. Wasn't a beautiful game to watch, but it was always suspenseful because winning that game mattered to Pitt. To start 6-0 for the first time since 1982 and to stay in the hunt for the ACC championship game. They would not have been a likely entrant had they lost that game, but they can continue to be in that circumstance.
Michael says that there are tickets left for Washington, but Michigan is sold out, and there are a few tickets left for Purdue. So no doubt that I would say all 4 of those games will sell out. Maryland probably would have sold out had it not been for the rain. Up till now, that's still been their biggest crowd of the season.
Right.
Indiana fans have to learn how to be football fans, Mike. They have not been football fans. They've been basketball fans because that's what they've had. They have not had football really. So I don't think that they really know and understand. Like if you go to a big-time Big Ten game or an SEC game, they've been doing this for a long time, and it's different.
It is. But I think Memorial Stadium's a great place to watch a football game. I covered a couple of games there back in the day. I remember I covered Tim Couch throwing 7 touchdown passes against the Hoosiers once when I was in Cincinnati. Great sight lines, obviously a beautiful atmosphere. And now that at this point they've got huge games to play. And like I said, I'm really excited about this weekend in college football. I've enjoyed this season as much as I should say more than I expected to, because I didn't expect stories like Pitt and Indiana to develop. I mean, who knows where they come from, and I know that what it means. It doesn't just, is a conference championship important? Yes, I think they're underrated, to be honest with you, in many respects. But that conference championship should lead somewhere. It should take you somewhere. And I remember covering Penn State against Wisconsin. I know I've gone over this before, in Indianapolis, and sitting there talking to James Franklin on the day before the game and knowing that it's going to be an interesting game on Saturday night, but it's not going to carry the importance that it should, because whoever wins this game isn't going anywhere. They're going to the Rose Bowl. Nice afternoon, but not a consequential game. And it should have meant you win this game, you're into the playoff. And if it happened now, it would mean that.
What's up next for you, Mike?
I am working on our Sporting News college basketball All-America team and our preseason top 25, which will be out in early November, both of them. And also working on an article about the Sporting News Baseball Player of the Year. Ours is voted on not by the USBWA, the BBWA, the baseball writers. Ours is not voted on. Ours is voted on by major league players. So it's an award that carries a lot of prestige, and we'll have that out announced. I think next week it will be announced.
Make sure you look for that in the Sporting News, and make sure you're giving Mike DeCourcy a follow. Mike, appreciate you as always, my friend.
Enjoy Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We will be joined by Tricia Whitaker, who will be hosting Hoosier Hysteria this Friday, and Zach Carpenter from Nebraska Rivals. We'll talk about this weekend's game. Plenty more coming from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm.